Okay, now we're going to get ready to paint. Here are some things to think about with watercolor. Watercolor is different than any other kind of color or paint because we don't use white in watercolor. Watercolor is a transparent paint, which means that it is see-through. And we use the white of the paper to lighten a color. Well, what does that mean? That sounds pretty confusing. Let me show you. So I'm just going to grab some water here, and you're going to get really used to wetting that brush and then tapping it in your paper towels. Okay. I'm going to grab this red here, and you can see here from another demo I did, this is all the same red, but if I want it dark, oh, that has too much water in it. Let's bring it back down. And I probably need to grab some more red. But if you want a dark red, it might take a couple layers, but you want very little water on your brush, right? And that gets you, it's still transparent, I can still see through it, but it gets you a much darker color. If you want to lighten and have a light red, you add more water. And this is just me adding water to that red and moving it about. And so we don't have white to add to the color to lighten it. You have to add more water to make it transparent. So for that reason, it's not the perfect paint to learn how to mix color on, just because when you go to mix color with other types of paint, you'll definitely have to use white. But it's what we got. We're not going to start mixing color on acrylic. So we are going to start it this way, and it's going to teach you a ton. Okay, so I'm going to wet my brush, and I wish you could see every time I'm grabbing this brush, but I'm always going to grab it in there, and I'm going to put it here, and I'll end up using a lot of paper towels. I have a saying, clean color is a clean brush. So if you're not getting the color you want, you're going to have to clean your brush and go for it again with a cleaner brush. Okay, so we're going to start with our yellow. We're only going to use primary colors in the beginning. Our primary colors are yellow, red, and blue. These primary colors, yellow, red, and blue, theoretically, these three colors will make all the other colors in the color wheel. Now, why I say theoretically is because it doesn't really work that way. When we start mixing color, it won't look as real as you might think. It won't look like the factory colors. Now these are secondary colors, and I call them factory because they're going to be much brighter when they're man-made out of the factory than how we mix them. And so we won't be using the secondary colors, mixing them today. I mean, we're not going to be using the factory ones. We're going to be mixing our own. But we're going to start with yellow here, and then we're going to move to red here, and then we're going to mix our oranges, like 4 or 5 different oranges in the middle. And then we will move to red and blue, and then we will mix all these different purples. And then finally we will do red and green, or blue and yellow, I'm sorry, and we will mix all these different greens. Okay? So let's start with yellow. And I'm going to wet my brush, and I'm going to come in here and grab some of this yellow. Now, sure, because it's just a pure color, I could start to put it on the paper, but I want to get you guys used to mixing color, so we're going to grab some of this yellow. I'm going to load my brush up with it. If I flip my brush like that, I'm getting paint all the way through it. And I'm going to put it up here on this plastic part. This is called a palette. A palette is what you use to mix paint. It's the surface you use to mix paint. So here I got a nice yellow. It's still kind of transparent, but just going to dab a little of that water off and grab it with a little drier brush. And that's a really nice pure yellow. You can see how I'm using a medium-sized brush because I don't want a lot of texture in there. I want to make it nice and flat and blended. It's okay that I'm going over the lines a little bit. I just want to make sure I'm at least filling it all the way from here to here. We can go back over and cover it if it goes over the lines. Don't worry about that. So you're just going to get a pure yellow, even though you started up there, okay? So stop the video until you get that. When you're ready to move on, you clean your brush out, daub it, and go for the red. Okay, I have to use a different red because I'm out, so I just have to wet that red. And I'm going to grab this red and I'm going to put it over here at a different place on my palette. But I want you to get used to mixing color. So you can see I move my paintbrush around. I get it on both sides. I move my paintbrush around. It's not tons of water there, so I should be okay. And I'm going to put my red about right in here. You can see how I move in my brush, all kind of the same direction. And a big part of this first exercise is you're just going to get used to water. You're going to get used to how much water it takes, dabbing water out, making a dry brush, putting another, look how much stronger that red looks. I don't know if it does in the video, but it's much brighter. I just put out some of the water and grabbed it again. Okay, so we have a pure yellow and a pure red. Now we're going to mix our oranges. Now, I do have a lot of red in this brush. I think I'll just dab it out a little bit. I don't have to get it all out because I'm going to make orange. I have this great yellow here that I think's still pretty much wet. So I'm just going to grab some of this red that I have here and mix it in there and see. Just what I have. I think it's not going to be, yeah, it doesn't look super orange there, but you can see it's starting to happen. And, you know, there I didn't really need to clean my brush. I just needed more water to make it go. Because like I said, watercolor doesn't work without water. So I'm going to grab some of this yellow and put a lot of it up there. Yellow is the weakest of the pigments. Now, pigment is what makes your color. It's called pigment. So red is a very strong pigment. Yellow's a lot weaker. So it's going to take a lot more yellow to make an orange than it's going to take red. Oh God, did I really just touch into a green? Get that off. I'm tempted just to change brushes. I don't know why I did that. Okay. Oh, I can see a little bit of that green still in there, but that's okay. You won't know the difference. Okay, there's that yellow. Now I'm just going to touch a touch of red. Not a lot. I'm going to need a little more. I'd always start a little light. You can always add more. And then maybe I'll go with a little more yellow. That's looking kind of a good orange, so let's see. Oh, that's a nice orange. Now, like I said, your oranges that you mix aren't going to be as bright as the oranges here. That's how I can tell if you're mixing your orange or if you're using the factory orange. You're going to want to mix it. It's going to be a duller version of the orange. Okay, so we have the yellow, the orange, and the red. Now your challenge is to mix the orange, lightening it up, and make it blend into the yellow. And then we're going to go the opposite direction and add more red and make it blend in with the red. So I start off going the light direction. I have this orange already up here, so I'm going to start out by just adding some more yellow into it. I need a little more water, but not too much. I'm going to dab that. I think I need to squirt a little in there. There, it's getting... Now I can add that yellow up in there because we want to make it more yellow than orange because we're lightening it to the yellows, right? But it all kind of looks the same, so I'm going to go and add a little bit more of the orange. Put a little bit more red into it. And you're just, right now, you're totally experimenting. You should be in a total experimental phase right now. There's something called a dry brush where you literally take a brush with no water. Well, actually I like a little water on it. But a brush with no paint, and you can use it as a blending tool. I have this orange going light, but right here there's a big jump between this and this. So I want to try to blend it a little better. I'm going to take the yellow right on the paper this time and see if I take a little bit of yellow. If I can blend that. Now I'm just going to put a pure yellow on there. Yeah, that's a pretty nice blend job. So going from the yellow, I really like those textures in there. It's because I have a lot of water. But you can see that yellow, in my brush, and it's getting more orange. And now I'm going to bring it to more of a darker orange, so I'm going to bring in some of that older red because I can get in there. But I still have to add the yellow to make it orange. Oh, yeah, that's definitely a little darker. Let's bump it up a little bit more. Mix a little more red in there with it. Ooh, yes. Going a little darker. Maybe I'll put some red just right onto the paper. And that looks pretty good. Maybe I'll take a dry brush, just a tad bit of water on it. Now a lot of you, if you get too much water and you haven't gone over your paint, you can actually pick it up like an eraser. So that's something that you'll be playing with. You guys will be playing with a lot of this stuff, you know, to see how. So don't be frustrated if you don't get it to look exactly like you want. It takes time. Everything takes time to learn that. Everything. Okay. So stop the video and play with this until you get a nice gradation. Start with your yellow, move to your red. Mix your orange, and then take it to a light orange yellow, and then take it to an orange red. Okay? Try to get that all nice and smooth and a good transition. And stop the video until you get that done. Okay, I should stop the video too because the bell's about to ring, but I'm not going to yet. I'm going to see if I can get this done. I'm going to grab some of my blue. I'm going to start my blue over here. Your water should be okay because it's a cool color going into a warm color. That might not make sense, but if your water gets too... If you think the color of your water is changing your paint, get up and change your water. Okay, so there's the blue. It's pretty transparent. I can put another, dab out some of that water, and I can see it's about the darkest I'm going to get it. Okay, and so it didn't really leave a lot of room. I could have brought my blue over a little bit more, so I think I'm going to bring it up a little bit. But you see how it's dragging across the paper? It's because I need some water. There. So now I'm going to make a purple. Purple will not look nearly as bright at all. It's more of a mauve. Now your blues and your reds are both really strong pigments. So you'll use about 50-50 with them. It's not like the yellow where you have to bunch it up a lot more. So, yeah, there's a good purple. And like I said, I made my blue a little bit too thick. But I'm going to do the same thing that I did. I want to bring this blue red, bring reds into it till it blends there, and bring blues into it till it blends there. I think just because I have that blue there, I'm going to start it. Going to bump it up to the red. Still a little blue in there, but I want it much more red. Oh, that'd be pretty if it weren't so transparent. Too much water. Bump it with the blue. Cut it with the red. There we go. Use a dry brush. Make sure your dry brush is clean. And put a little more red right there. That looks like a pretty good, quick job, but it doesn't look bad. I could play around with bringing a little bit of this purple, and if the bell wasn't going to ring so freaking quick, I would. And then I can add some blue to it there. That's looking pretty good. Okay. Okay, I'm going to now stop the video until you get that nice mauve going to the blue and the mauve going back to the red. Okay, really quick, I'm going to try to do green. Now green and yellow. Oh wait, I can't grab a real green. Don't do what I just did. Let's see, I have 2 minutes until that bell rings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, I have some orange in my yellow, so I'm going to clean it out. Okay, so clean off your palette if you don't have a good space. But I'm going to start with my yellow because it's the weaker of the pigments, right? So I want to start with that and load it up. Start with my yellow, and then I'm going to add a touch of the blue, maybe another touch. And the green that it makes is this real earthy green. So if you paint a lot of landscapes, a lot of times that factory green is just too bright or too fake looking. And so mixing your greens is really important if you're going for a natural look, like the greens that we see in nature. And then again, I'm going to add more yellow to it. You can see I just added it straight to the paper. But I have to clean that brush if I want to keep making it turn more and more yellow. Oop, there was some brown on there. It shows up right there. Shoot. It's going to look pretty dang good before that happened, but that's okay. There, I took it out a little bit. And then I'm going to turn my green more to the blues. Still need a little yellow. But definitely more blue into that yellow. Can bop it up just a little stronger. And so even me, that I've done this for a long time in life, I still have to look for it, right? I still have to work back and forth. I still have to control my water. I'm really looking for those nice fades, those transitions. I'm going to grab another dry brush, one that I didn't use for warm colors, and use it to blend some of those cooler colors. A lot of times I'll have a cool and warm brush, but that's a little advanced for you right now. So there we go. I did a pretty good colored wheel. And now we're going to turn this into something cool. So stop the video where you need, repeat where you need, go as slow or fast as you feel comfortable. I keep messing with this right here. I got to stop or else I'm going to jack it up. But fill this all in, get your color wheel, and then make sure you go clean out those brushes when you're done. Don't let them soak for a long time. Okay, guys, that's get to that point, and then we'll be finishing it off, looking cool. Okay, peace out. Have fun.